Well, it's nice we have the 4 seasons. I like them. And sometimes winter's a little challenging. There's not much light, a little cold, a little wet. However, it has its merits. Traditionally, in the Northwest, the indigenous peoples had long houses a little further north than that. And they would gather in there in the winter time and have a little fire, and then they had these twigs with pitch in them for candles. And they, like people around the world, would tell stories and do carvings in wood or ivory or maybe a little bits of weavings. So I encourage all of us to do that. Maybe we'll start creating bigger spaces where people can gather and do whatever. A little weaving, a little clay work, little stories. Just chill out and not be a machine. So, a new year, that's very exciting. I mean, we made it up, but it has relevance. It's important to renew, and it's symbolic. It's really good. So we're off to a new year, and Hojo-san, our beautiful ceremony last week, we do annually, the New Year celebration, and some lovely traditional Japanese food. And he had mentioned that this was on the Chinese zodiac, and in the East, depending where you're at, it's the year of the dragon. However, it's more than the year of the dragon. Every 60 years, it's the year of the wooden dragon, the wood dragon. And the wood dragon has certain characteristics. More so it invokes creativity, gentleness, and so forth. It's very auspicious. So that's where we are, in a sense. Now, it's interesting. I read part of the book of Genesis yesterday. It's another mythology, right? You're all probably familiar with it. If you're not, you're actually living under that myth. In that myth, Western civilization is informed by that mythology. And it's the year of the dragon, and in the mythology of the Bible, there's a serpent. And we are living under that story that has to do with serpents and women and how nature's treated and how women are treated. So the good news is we are in a transition to a new mythology. I don't know what it is, but the human species is within that right now. So it's very exciting. And one image that might be informative is the image that they took when they went to the moon, and there's a photograph of the Earth in space, quite beautiful. And Joseph Campbell, a scholar of comparative mythology and one of my teachers, is very fond of that image, and he says that's going to be one of the symbols of the new mythology. You don't see any flags. You don't see any boundaries of countries. There's this unifying, interesting whole sphere of life. So that's where we are. It's open for creativity and imagination. So the title of this talk, The Practice of the Wild, Zen, Nature, and Society. All exciting stuff. And we just sat zazen all together, very peacefully, infinitely open and creative, and you could do that anywhere. I highly recommend it. I don't time myself frequently at home. We time here, which is important. We have to have a structure. But I just sit down and I sit. And I have a sense of the time, but sometimes I don't. But so I don't have a restriction. I can just say, okay, I'll just sit. And it might be 2 minutes. It's usually longer than that. It might end up going for a bit. But I just sit, and so that's one of my practices at home. Sometimes I time myself. so I can give a good report to my teacher. But he's fond of saying there's only one period of Zazen. If we're doing a long session and it's 7 days, and we think, oh, hey, I'm really, this is amazing. He says, there's only one period of Zazen. So if you just check in and sit for 2 minutes and breathe, it's good. It's good. Please do. Well, let's check in with Master Dogen. I've always avoided Dogen for so many years. He is the founder of our school, for those of you who are not familiar. In the 13th century, Buddhism had already been in Japan since the 5th century, 6th century. And he went to China and he discovered Chan in China. There's a meditation school, several, but he went there and discovered what we're practicing now, and he brought that back. He sailed there and came back and had some very moving experiences. So we're still riding the wave of his journey to China, in a sense, we are. Master Dogen. This is from his writing, Mountains and Rivers Sutra. Now when dragons and fish see water as a palace, it is just like human beings seeing a palace. They do not think it flows. If an outsider tells them, what you see as a palace is running water, the dragons and fish will be astonished, just as we, when we hear the words mountains flow. It is not only that there is water in the world, but there is a world in water. It is not just water. There is a world of sentient beings in clouds. There's a world of sentient beings in the air. There's a world of sentient beings in fire. There's a world of sentient beings in a blade of grass. So, the practice of the wild. Dogen is sharing and commenting on his insights into life everywhere, infinitely complex and alive everywhere. So, the practice of the wild. Oh, I saw something exciting this morning. We planted a umeboshi tree out in the back. That's a Japanese plum. They cure it in salt. Maybe some of you may have had, Japanese food is very salty. It's supposed to be very medicinal. So we planted one, and in Japanese society, they're very important. They're in poetry a lot. No, they bloom in the wintertime. And I walked out, and there's blossoms on this umeboshi tree. It's only about this tall. So if you have time, walk out there, see these beautiful pink little blossoms. Now, there's no other plant right now that I know of, please tell me if I'm incorrect, that is blooming right now that's a native. But in another month, it'll be the wild hazelnut, which is quite beautiful. So now we have a bloom here that's connecting us with the spirit of Japanese culture. And there's buds on the, what's that? The nice plant we put out here for June, the fragrant.
That's the Daphne.
Daphne, we have Daphne. They have buds right now. They actually have buds. So there's things that you can look at and appreciate when you're in the depths of winter and you're going, it's a bit gloomy. That's like there's nice little bits here and there that you can appreciate. And please do. So modern global civilization. Is anyone planning to go to Mars here at all? No? Okay. Well, they're working on it. I'm concerned, really, about the psychology of even, being out there. It's just one perspective, of course, leave it open. But there's a tendency for modern technology to deny the life of this planet. And that is one aspect of it. However, we are infinitely curious and creative, and I say keep that open, but don't forget your mother. So, the practice of the wild. It's actually a text that inspired the title of this talk by the wonderful poet Gary Snyder, some of you may be familiar with. He went to Japan in the 50s to study Zen from San Francisco. So he was one of the early Westerners and lived in Japan for 12 years. He's a great poet. He's still alive. He's 93 years old, living down in the Sierras, and he is one of the profound champions of nature, wild nature, and creativity and culture. So I highly recommend that text, this text. This is in the chapter, The Etiquette of Freedom. Wilderness is a place where the wild potential is fully expressed. A diversity of living and non-living beings, flourishing according to their own sorts of order. In ecology, we speak of wild systems. When an ecosystem is fully functioning, all the members are present at the assembly. To speak of wilderness is to speak of wholeness. Human beings came out of that wholeness. And to consider the possibility of reactivating membership in the assembly of all beings is in no way regressive. Yeah, good medicine. So, that's what we're up to. The community of all beings. As Dogen referred to, even blades of grass, the air, water, fire. It's good teachings. Speaking of water, and I just had some. We used to do a hike up the Mackenzie River and to a place called Clear Lake. And that's where the water from Eugene and Springfield comes from. And there's an underground spring that feeds that Clear Lake and comes up right there. So we'll do some more walks and we can all go. That's quite beautiful. That's the water source for where we are. And it's a really good one. There's snow melt that comes in there, and little creeks and streams, and quite amazing. Well, I had the good fortune to look at the Autobahn magazine a couple of days ago. I'm a fan of bird creatures, but not that knowledgeable like a lot of Autobahns can name all the birds. I can't do that. But I appreciate them. But there's this article on the whitebark pine, which I am familiar with because I used to hike up into the high Cascades above tree line, north of Mount Jefferson, and I came upon these interesting trees that are above tree line. It's still a tree, so it's existing right on the edge I don't know. It varies in elevation depending where you are on the Cascades in California. So I'd say I was up at about 7,500 feet or 8,000 feet. And there are these trees that are not gnarly, bent over, half dead beings that are white bark pine. And they're the species in this region that they can grow at that elevation in those conditions, which is heavy snow and cold winter. They're really amazing looking because they just somehow are doing it in those conditions. And there's a word for that in the tree books. It's called krummholz, which is German for crooked wood. That's my email. Anyway, this article, this amazing woman is a scientist, a wildlife biologist, and she's researching these, more so, spending a lot of time, because they are troubled relative to climate change and warming. They're very fragile in a sense. But there is this bird, a Clark's nutcracker, that has a symbiotic relationship with this tree, in the sense that it eats the seeds to live. And it gathers these seeds. It has this pouch in its mouth. It can put like 150 seeds in this pouch, right? So it's not greedy. It's got a function. Not a hungry ghost bird. And so it gathers these up, and then it takes them and puts them in a catch. It stores them in different places. And it remembers where these seeds are all over the place. It can remember, and it goes back to them because the scientists, they're tracking this bird, and they know where it's going, and so forth and so on, with all this high technology. But also the bird spreads these seeds so they will grow in other places, long distance, hundreds of miles it goes. And so up in the high elevations down in Sierras and Cascades and up in Canada are these trees that this bird is planting the seeds for, and it lives on them. And there's other creatures. This is the primary one. There's squirrels and different things. But isn't that fascinating? And then throughout nature, there's this, in biology, the symbiotic relationship, mutually beneficial. And so that's an example, and that's the energy that we want to cultivate with humans, mutually beneficial, cooperation and flourishing. And we're doing it. And these trees can live up to 1,000 years old. So they take on this very interesting quality, like an old bonsai, but beyond that. And the snow up there is really heavy, and so they're all bent over. You see these young trees, they're bent over sometimes. But it all works out. It's amazing. And that scientist's name is Taza Shaming. And she has to go out in the deep snow and the cold, and it's just amazing. She's just moved by this whole process of this bird and these trees, and is really just working at it considerably. And modern technology is amazing as far as being able to track these and film them and so forth and so on. It's very nice. It's a form of dana, generosity, you would say. It informs us, but it is dana, it's generosity. Generosity of nature without a name, but it's flowing and nurturing. And thank you all for your generosity, because Buddha Eye has a budget that we need to keep the Dharma wheel turning here and the candles burning. And folks have been very generous, and so we are able to meet our budget and carry on. So thank you all very much. And also for all those who are generous in numerous ways, 5 days a week someone's scrubbing this floor and cooking and working in the garden and on and on and on. And please join us. There's always room to participate in those wonderful activities and so forth and so on. Speaking of renewal, after coming here for a number of years, I realized I have too many things, you know. And so I said, well, what can I let go of? And I go over to my bookcase and I go, but not that book. But not that book. And what's going on here? And so finally, you know, I'll take some books. Okay, I haven't read that book for 18 years. Maybe I could let it go. But no, I might read it another time. but okay, so I broke the ice, so to speak. And, okay, let me get about it. Just take a few books. We don't have to take too many. And then I say, well, if I have too many books, what else do I have? I said, well, I look at my clothes. There's shirts there that I haven't worn for 10 years. Literally, they're there, sitting there. And I thought, but I'm going to wear that someday. But I go, well, when? You know. And so I go, okay, one shirt. There are two. And I did it. I said, what? Well, but after this process, I said, well, this is healthy. You know, this is helpful. I mean, I still have stuff. I have stuff. But it was very nice to let that go. I can give it to Goodwill or wherever, and someone else says, oh, that's a really nice shirt or book. It's like, so we got to keep it open and let it flow. Okay. Well, some of the aspects of the practice of the wild, some energies that have words maybe, and functions are decay and regeneration, symbiosis, spontaneity, nurturing, creativity, playfulness and humor, imagination, thusness and suchness. Those are nice Zen terms I encourage you to unfold that energy of suchness and thusness. Mary Oliver, poet. I just happened to be in the poetry section and glanced over and saw this. And there's a lovely poem in here I'd like to share. She's amazing. If you're not familiar with her, she's really into the minutiae of nature. Spiders and watching spiders and doing what they do. Tiny spiders, everything. Birds and deer and owls and such. But the title of the book is House of Light. And, you know, we just had the solstice, 21st, 22nd of December, and the days are getting longer, so that's a nice reference that, you know, things are opening up, getting lighter. The Buddha's last instruction. Make of yourself a light, said the Buddha. Before he died, I think of this every morning as the east begins to tear off its many clouds of darkness, to send up the first signal, a white fan, streaked with pink and violet, even green. An old man, he lay down between two sala trees, and he might have said anything, knowing it was his final hour. The light burns upward, it thickens and settles over the fields. Around him, the villagers gathered and stretched forward to listen. Even before the sun itself hangs, disattached in the blue air, I am touched everywhere by its ocean of yellow waves. No doubt he thought of everything that had happened in his difficult life. And then I feel the sun itself as it blazes over the hills. Like a million flowers on fire, clearly I'm not needed. Yet I feel myself turning into something of inexplicable value. Slowly, beneath the branches, he raised his head. He looked into the faces of the crowd. Make of yourself a light. So, if there are any insights, inspirations, questions,
Koji,
please. Hi.
You are a master craftsman. How do we rewild our craft, our technology, so that it is in balance with the world?
Well, for one thing, we have to do that. The work is, how do we do it? And do it. Well, I'd say it's a work in progress. Listen to your heart, your imagination, and other people's imaginations. So I don't have a specific answer, but the things I said I think apply. And it's more of one person being able to do it or one idea. It's a holistic. It's humanity, and people are doing it right now as we speak. So I would say dive into it, and the answers will come to you.
Kogen,
I
I was really moved by your description of the behavior of this bird as Dana. I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit more about the relationship between Dana and like natural instinct, the way that we know, the way that birds know where north is, the way that we know how to live our lives, how those two things relate to each other.
Yeah. Well, the human condition is complex. One aspect is survival and tend to a little bit of hoarding maybe and so on and so on. Which isn't all negative in the sense that we need to take care and live and eat and have a place to live and take care of the economics of that. That's all healthy. And so then the other aspect of human nature is very generous. I mean, if someone is about to be hit by a car, somebody runs out and grabs that person and saves them. I don't know. That's part of who we are. So we are generous. So in the practice of Buddhism, we consciously cultivate that because we need a little bump. Some of us, not everybody. A lot of people are amazing, but so we have that in our nature, and so in our practice we really cultivate that. And the amazing thing is observing it and practicing it is. There's this funny thing with the human mind, that, I can't do that because there won't be enough. And, there's that aspect. And then there's the other aspect. When you open the gate, things just flow. And it's pretty amazing. There's a function to the universe that's very generous. I mean, look at these cherry trees out here in the spring. There's thousands of blossoms. It's just that one little blossom kind of like, I'm just going to put out one blossom this spring. I don't know. There's thousands of blossoms. There's thousands of stars. Look at the Webb telescope, look out there. You want to blow your mind. That's generosity, so it's wide open. So. keep practicing. Hi.
I saw a thing the other day raising money for elephants. 10% left.
10%.
Yeah. Elephants are amazing creatures.
Yeah, I wanted to be a pianist,
Uh-huh.
and I'm sure I played on, a dead elephant.
Oh, well. Uh-huh. No, they're amazing creatures. Thank you for bringing it up. They're very amazing. Truly amazing.
10% left.
Mm-hmm. I'll work on that.
Okay.
Yes.
One thing you said that I really liked was that one of the problems in modern society is that we forget the aliveness in things,
Uh-huh.
aliveness in how we use our technology. Could you speak a little bit more about that?
How we forget the aliveness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good point. We do have this practice in Zen, in taking very particular care of things. Like if you're training to be, priest, you'll get bowls and a robe, and those are special. You learn to care for things, special things. In one sense, all things are special, perhaps. And so, in a consumer society like ours, and so many things are disposable, we lose touch with that. Like if you can get a paper cup every day, twice a day, and toss it, they actually come from trees. So we can practice in our own lives every day, whatever that might be, to be conscious of how we be in the world, and care for things. If you have a tool, sharpen it, oil the handle if it's wood, and take good care of it, and it'll work for a long time. So we do that here. We work at that.
In thinking about technology, and I'm not sure how many folks know there's a very real humanitarian crisis going on in the DRC and Congo, wherein the slave labor is being used to mine cobalt that we use for our phones and our computers and what have you, and so the technology we use comes at a very real cost to the environment. There's a very real human cost as well, that I feel like we kind of do this to. We kind of put up our blinders and not recognize that, for every bit of our comfort, there is a cost somewhere, whether we see it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really difficult for me to use these things knowing at the price that someone else has to pay for it. And so I don't know how to reconcile that, because I feel like I can't get away from it. I use technology in my everyday life, and even if you want to raise awareness about these types of atrocities, it's with that, there's very real irony that in using this device that came at the cost of suffering to spread awareness about this suffering. I don't know how to reconcile these things. And I don't expect anybody here does, but if you could speak to that a bit, because it's something that's been really it's been eating me up. Honestly.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, because that is a burning topic that we all, have to face. But thank you so much. So that always troubled me, and one possibility, is to use the technology to transform the world. So there's a trade-off, like you're saying. However, if we use technology for its best abilities to transform the human species, that's what we can do our best to use it that way. And it has great capacity. That's the tool we have. It's actually quite amazing. I didn't think so for years, but it is. It has the capacity to communicate and educate like we never have been able to do. And so hopefully we can use that technology in a way, is transformative. For instance, as far as things go, and there's this fair trade now. So there's this company in Eugene, for instance, that sells coffee. And they support small farmers, at higher elevation in Chiapas. And they're paid relatively well for their culture. Coffee is sold up here, it's labeled as such, and people go, I'd like to support that. And they do. Well, that's just one example. Most of the world doesn't work that way, but we could move in that direction, and I think that would be very helpful. We just have to work on it together, but there's problems, so-called problems, and then there are many possibilities if we cooperate.
Kogen, could you read that line from the poem again? It said something like, I'm not needed here, but yet I feel myself turning.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I thought that was so beautiful.
When I got to turning, I was just like, like, what is going on? I was just like ready to fly. Well, I'll start just a little bit ahead of that. And then I feel the sun itself as it blazes over the hills, like a million flowers on fire. Clearly, I'm not needed. Yet I feel myself turning into something of inexplicable value. Thank you for that wonderful observation. That's quite the line.
Kogen,
Hey,
you mentioned Eve and the serpent. I'm wondering if you could say more about women and dragons.
oh. Maybe a woman should be saying that. I'm androgynous, so I can go there a little bit. But, well, I mean, historically, it's very negative. And it's transforming. I don't know what the new, Hojo-san evokes the serpent, and it's very much a part of the Nagas of Mahayana tradition. So it's quite interesting. On that topic, there used to be a bathtub out here when Hojo-san lived with his family. And it was a metal tub. He'd start a fire under it, and he stopped doing that. They moved, and there were some rocks there. So I went over to move the rocks, and there were 3 snakes. Garter snakes. They're not dangerous, and they were under the rocks. I haven't seen them since. So that's all I can say.
You said perhaps a woman might speak to this.
Please, I'm
Perhaps you could
wide
invite
open. That's what
women
it's
to speak
about.
to that.
Pardon?
Perhaps you could ask the question to the group, the Sangha, and ask if women would speak to that.
Oh, it's wide open. Please, anyone that would like to speak, a woman in particular, please do.
I have one thing that's been coming to me recently is that Avalokiteshvara and Kuan Yin are just mirror images of each other. And Kuan Yin is the female representation of Avalokiteshvara. I've just been reading this little book that is so beautifully written. And they hear the cries of the world. And so does Avalokiteshvara. They're just, everything that we do when we invoke their support and care, they appear to us and help us. So that is a very brave and consistent thing to do.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much. Anyone else? Well, here's to women and Nagas.
Are there any announcements? There is. The Conzione Committee continues to sponsor a sock drive for socks, imagine that. Any white socks, tube socks, whatever, you can get them down at the Weimar for about $8 for half a dozen pairs. We'll take them to the dining room, the Food for Lane County dining room, and they'll be distributed to folks who have wet feet. And they're very much appreciated. Thank you.
The basket or receptacle for receiving those socks is by our Donna bowl in the front room. You'll see some white socks in it, so that's a good clue.
Thank you.
Very shortly here, in about 2 weeks, we will be announcing our winter and spring programming guide. So all new classes, retreats, ceremonies, other opportunities for community. So please look out for that. If you're not signed up for our weekly bulletin, our digest that comes out every Friday, that will be the best way to get that announcement. So if you need help signing up for that, I'd be happy to help you. Also, Reiko has a class that they can speak about that's coming up sooner than that. So I'll let Reiko talk about that.
So as a lead up to the full spectrum of spring programming, 4 of Buddha-ai Koji will be offering a class called Zen Mind, Zen Form. And we're going to be focusing on forms that we practice here, everything from bowing to full ritual. And this class is open, and we encourage all practitioners to take part. And the more people participate from a wide spectrum of practice positions, the more rich the class will be. We really encourage longtime practitioners and newcomers to come and practice. It will start on Tuesday, January 16th, and go for 4 Tuesdays through the first Tuesday in February. So if you have any questions about that, you can see me today, and you can look out in the newsletter for the sign up, and that is sign up only. So.
My name is Liz, and I'm one of your greeters today, along with Paul. Where is Paul? Oh, right here. So if you have any questions about Buddha-ai Temple, or if you're new here, if you're returning, welcome, and please feel free to ask either of us any questions that you have.
Well, we will continue to have coffee being served and also trades made by Yutong right after this.
And a reminder going into spring that everything we offer here at Buddha-ai is free of charge. We have no membership fees or dues. We rely completely and radically and totally on the generosity of the community.